Hey everybody, today on Worship Leader Wednesday, we're talking about whether or not we should do secular music in church services.
So before we even get started in this video, I would like to ask you, please don't comment based on the title of this video. Please hear us out, because we're going to talk about both sides of this.
There are two sides?
There are two sides.
I thought only my side mattered.
And they both have legitimate arguments.
Wow.
In their favor. So we're gonna try and hit kind of both sides of this spectrum about singing secular music. Quote, how do you define what secular is? That's a question. But singing secular music in a worship service. And let's start with why you shouldn't.
But first, Brian, let me get this straight. You're telling me that two people could think two different things?
No. Okay.
And one of them not be totally wrong?
Oh man, and both not be wrong.
That sounds complicated.
It is. It's complicated.
Oh my god.
Just like this topic.
It's complicated. That's what this video should be called. It's complicated.
It's complicated. So why shouldn't we? I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't.
Or here's another question. What is a secular song?
Right, okay. What is a secular song?
You know, exactly. We could probably think differently about that. I think what we're talking about right now is a music song, right?
Right, yeah.
About approximately 4 minutes of music with lyrics.
A composition
that are not registered with CCLI.
Okay,
that's what we're talking about, right?
Okay,
that's what, because there are secular bands. I don't think songs necessarily can be secular. I think people are secular.
Yeah.
But I think for the sake of this discussion, we're talking about songs, the lyrics of a song.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Music can't really be Christian or secular.
Right.
Lyrics are telling a story.
Right.
What's that story about? Is it something that we should allow in our church?
Yeah.
Or is it something that should stay outside the walls of the church?
Absolutely.
Even though 90% of the people that leave that church are probably going to go listen to that exact same song.
Yeah.
So the question that we're asking is typically like a U2 song or a Lifehouse song. I mean, obviously there are a bunch of songs you should never do in church.
Ever. Yeah.
You know, probably like any song that 50 Cent recorded or Eminem recorded. Like there are some songs that just, it would be really difficult to even figure out how you would, do it without offending people. But we're talking about songs that don't offend people, that are about legitimate subjects, that can tie into the pastor's message or whatever. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about shock value. We're not talking about any of that stuff.
And some churches do that.
Some churches do that. And,
Here's a statement that I would like to make that I think is one, it is black or white. I don't believe we should sing non-worship songs in a worship set. Like, you have like 3 or 4 songs together that you sing, and the purpose is for you and your congregation to worship God. I don't think we need a song that's not written to glorify God or lift high the name of Jesus in that part of the service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
Do you agree with that?
But there's also songs out there that are considered church songs that I'm like, this isn't really a worship song. Yeah. So to me, that's the same thing. Like, why would so I think everyone's gonna have their opinions on preference. Like, we should do this kind of song. We should do this kind of song. But what you're saying is we should distinguish them. So maybe you don't just like. I'm trying to figure out a situation where that would happen, where it's like you do "What a Beautiful Name" and then a U2 song, and then like it's like.
That's really weird.
That is weird.
Usually, if a church does
it would be featured.
It's like a separate
like a featured moment. Yeah. I think the most important thing is, one, hopefully it's not just your decision.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Because the songs we do at my church aren't just my decision. Yeah. It's a creative team. Yeah. Under the leadership of the church, and so. I think the ultimate thing is the real question is a vision question. Yeah. Are we the kind of church that is okay with occasionally doing like this? I mean, there are some churches out there that are what you would call super seeker sensitive, and their whole vibe is to attract people, and that's a whole nother kind of rabbit hole. But the bottom line at the end of the day, hopefully as the worship leader, you're not the only one
right.
going, should we do the song or should we not? This is something you talk about with your team, something you talk about with the pastor, and that is, because I can think of a ton of great reasons to do an occasional secular song in a service, you know? And I would say it like this. Sometimes we think small, right? What's the here's a question I have for you viewers. What's the difference between a secular song, let's say a song by Lifehouse, you know, Everything by Lifehouse. You know, it's a secular song, but it's really actually about God.
It is a worship song.
And it's almost a worship song, right?
Pretty
but
much.
Let's say you just treated that as a secular song. What's the difference between that moment pointing to you know, a moment in the teaching, right? Something that ties into the pastor's message. Or doing a song about money. Like, you know, doing a song about money because you're going to do an old Beatles song about money because it's going to tie into exactly what the pastor is talking about money that weekend. And it's going to lower people's guards. And it's going to be a little, like a fun moment for them. And then we're going to be able to talk about money and tithing, right? And so what's the difference between that and just telling a story?
A sermon illustration?
A sermon illustration. Or a movie clip. You know, some pastors show movie clips. Like, what if I show a movie clip from a secular movie? Because if you only pick Christian movies, A, you're not going to have a lot of clips to choose from. And B, it's probably not going to illustrate your point.
The acting might not be so great either.
Yeah, so like, I know churches use clips from movies. Like, what's the difference between using a 2-minute clip from Jerry Maguire that everyone knows and laughs and goes, oh, that's funny, or doing a song?
Yeah, or what you just said, your pastor telling a story as part of a sermon illustration that isn't in the Bible.
Yeah.
What's the what's the difference?
Sure.
And there may be a difference. I don't know.
There might be
something for you to think about.
Either way, it's drawing you to a point, right? And I think the purpose, so let's talk about that. What's the purpose of doing a secular song? Is the purpose just to play music? Because if that's the case, then that's an easy answer. No.
That's well, in a lot of churches will do a secular song before the service
as people are walking in and stuff.
Right. And so, what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, sure.
And that church hopefully has
a purpose, right?
You know, they've thought about it, and there's a reason that they do it.
Yeah.
Like if you're a worship leader and you're thinking we should do that, and the reason you think you should do that is because people like it,
and it's on the radio.
And we want to be a church that people like. Well, that's a pretty terrible reason to do it.
Yeah,
like that doesn't glorify God at all.
Yeah,
and so in my opinion, and this is what Fuller just said, your reason has to be the reason that you choose to do it has to be extremely strategic, and it has to point people to Jesus. Because if it doesn't, then it probably doesn't have any place in your worship service.
I think it has to really serve a clear purpose. It has to be well thought out, and it has to be song people are comfortable doing. You know, you want to talk from a practical side of it. I can't stand it when churches do secular songs and they do them poorly.
Or they do songs that nobody really knows.
That defeats the purpose. And let's be honest, most secular songs are done by virtuosic people like you two. Really talented. Bono's amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's not like your average worship leader is just going to be able to reproduce Bono.
Yeah. Singing in the Streets Have No Name.
Yeah. So I think if you're trying to copy churches, or you're trying to copy secular bands and make it sound like the album, I think that's a really bad investment of your talents and time.
Yeah.
But occasionally, and I've been here before where we're doing a sermon series or something, and there's just a song that comes to all of our minds, and we're like, this would be the perfect song to tie in this illustration. And a lot of times we'll do that song near the end of pastor's message.
Yeah.
And he will set it up and he'll say, listen to this listen to this song. This is a song this is what our culture believes, or this is what we've been programmed to believe, or what does God have to say about it? And so we'll throw that out there, but it'll be reimagined. You know, maybe we'll do a different version of it.
Yeah.
You know, or something that we can actually do.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, it's rare, but I think to say that you shouldn't do secular songs, I don't think it's that cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know, I personally, like, I'd be fine never doing a secular song in church ever, right?
Me too.
But I also understand there are some moments where I'm like, man, that would be the perfect song. Yeah. Because we're still creatively putting a story together.
Yeah.
And because you could also get into, well, what if it's a secular band but everyone in the band is Christian,
like Switchfoot or something?
Yeah, exactly.
That.
So it's just like, I think it's just really a question of what should we serve coffee at church. It's like, should we have bulletins?
Depends on who's growing the beans.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it's each church has to make that decision for itself.
Yeah. So we're at the end of the video. People's fingers are poised, ready to comment. Let's recap. What have we said in this thing, Fuller? First of all, I think it's really okay. We're gonna play a secular song right now. First of all, I think one thing that we want to make sure that we communicated. Hopefully, we communicated this. If it doesn't point people to Jesus, if you're gonna use a song and the purpose of why you're using it doesn't point people to Jesus and the redemptive work of the cross, don't do it. But if you do come up with a creative way to use a song that's not a worship song, and it specifically is being used to point people to Jesus, then that's a completely different. Yeah, that's a different thing, and that's something that you and your church leadership should wrestle with and decide on your own.
And it's not just secular bands. There's lots of songs on Christian radio that aren't worship songs.
Right.
They tell stories. They're about people's experiences. And so to me, that's the same thing. Yeah. Even though I know that guy who wrote that song is a Christian, that singer is a Christian artist, but if you take the song just for what it's worth, I'm like, I don't even know if this is a Christian song or a secular song. And so it is really, but you could use that song in church to tell that story. Yeah. And just because it's on Christian radio, we feel better about it. Well, it's a Christian song.
And on the flip side, there's a lot of songs that aren't like, quote, CCM songs or bands. Like Switchfoot is a great example. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're all Christian guys. Yeah. And you can see themes of Christianity in their writing.
Absolutely.
Same with U2. We talk about U2, but U2 is the same way. I mean, Bono is very outspoken about his faith in Jesus.
That's right.
Please understand what it is we're trying to communicate, and pray about these things. Seek the Holy Spirit as well if you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to be doing in your worship services.
And if you don't know, then don't do it.
Yeah. If you can't say for certain this is why, and the why is pointing people to Jesus, probably not a good idea.
Yes. Whatever you do, don't take a secular song, please, for the love of everything. Don't take a secular song and write new Christian lyrics to it.
Don't do that.
Just
write
on behalf of all worship leaders.
Just write a good worship song instead.
Seriously.